What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be breaking down the route running from Brandon INNIS, a five-star wide receiver out of Florida. So I personally think that he is the best route runner in the class of 2023, and this kind of justifies that five-star ranking that everybody has given him. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it teaches you a few things of how you can compare yourself to this wide receiver and how you guys can take some aspects of his game and apply it to your own. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to get some work in with us this offseason, we are traveling out to 3 more states for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So next up, we're going to be coming out to Nashville, then we're coming out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then we're finishing the tour in Los Angeles, California. So if you guys want some more information on that, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. Let's get started. So now, first things first here with this release. This is going to be a slant route versus inside leverage. So that time and time again, you see clips of this kid. He's so explosive. He knows what he's doing off the line, and what he does is calculated. So I'm going to play this thing full speed, and then we'll break it down. So he goes with this slide release to the outside, throws this fake, and is able to get space on this slant. This is a very, very high level route. So when you have inside shade press coverage and you got to run a slant, what should you want to do? We know that this DB's lined up inside shade for a reason. He's trying to protect the inside. He's trying to stop the slant. He's trying to stop the post, the dig, whatever it might be. So my goal is I want to try to get his hips to open up. I want him to open up the gate, flip his hips, think I'm running a fade so I could slip back underneath. So he decides to go with this slide release. So what a slide release is pretty much like a tempo, like skip to the outside, almost on like a 45-degree angle to kind of get this DB to either settle inside or get him to open up to the outside. So DBs are taught that you're not going to move. You're going to try to stay as square as possible. So you see when INNIS comes off this line, he doesn't go flat. A lot of young wide receivers, the mistake that they make with this slide is that they will go lateral and operate behind the line of scrimmage. He is going almost at like a 45-degree angle because this forces that DB to make a decision. He could either sit to the inside right here and INNIS could just take off and go run a fade, or he could shuffle to the outside, get off of his platform, and be forced to watch his hips, which can get me separation back to the inside. It's all based on the leverage and the angle that he takes off the line. Now, how does he get to that point with some explosion? And this is something that's minor detail, but he takes this kick step with his back foot. Now, a lot of wide receivers think that this is a false step. A lot of coaches say this is a false step. Oh, you don't want to do this. This is to get you that explosion so you can attack on that 45-degree. So he kicks behind and he shoots his hips. That gives him that explosion to the outside and helps him get off of that platform or get out of his stance, if you will. So now he's in that position where he has to make a decision, like we said. So what he does here next is he throws this one hard cut. Now, this one hard cut that he throws is what's going to get this DB to bite completely. Because where is a DB supposed to be watching and press? Supposed to be watching his hips. So he does something that we call throwing his hip into the break. That is when your hips and your shoulders are fully committed to the fade, but you put the brakes on with this one single step, toes pointed forward so you can drive off of that cut and get out of this break. That is a very, very high level release, textbook release, and the IQ behind that release is off the charts. Now, what is something else that he could do on this? Because as wide receivers, you want to be able to pair your releases together. And we always want to be a vertical threat. So now maybe this DB got beat once or twice. This is why the slide release is so great, by the way. Because maybe this DB got beat once or twice on the slant. So next time I come off with this slide, maybe I have to run a goal line fade. I do the exact same thing. I take the exact same tempo, but this DB's trying to be disciplined. He sits to the inside. I could literally just take off. I could slide and just go run this fade if he wants to sit to the inside. I recommend watching any kind of film of Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen. That is textbook of what they do. They set the guy up with the hezzy, hit him with a crossover and run, or they'll hit him with the hezzy, take off and go when he wants to sit. That is route running, fellas, making your routes look the exact same, and that is what INNIS does a great job of. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job sliding, hitting him with that crossover, and then accelerating out to win the race to the ball. So now this is just another example of him having a high level, kind of route running IQ, which is very, very rare in high school receivers. He's one of those rare cases where he has the skills, he knows how to do it, but he also knows when to do these different kinds of releases. So he's got head up press right here, and he's also going to be running a slant. So let's play this thing full speed, then we'll break it down. So he comes off here, gives this crossover move, and then is able to make this play. So anytime that you guys have head up press, we talked about this last clip. When that DB was inside shade, what was he trying to protect? He was trying to protect the inside, did not want to give up the slant. He probably doesn't have any kind of help inside. Then you got guys who will line up outside shade press. That means that they probably have help. They want to prevent the outside route. But what do you do when he's head up? And that is when you want to try to kind of gain some info on a DB. You come off the line, maybe you do a split release, maybe you do like a foot fire release like he does right here to gather info, see how he is going to play you. Because a lot of times when you're running routes, it's like a point guard in basketball. It's not like you have a predetermined like crossover that you're going to do. Like obviously you rep a lot of crossovers, obviously you work on it. I'm not a big basketball guy, but it kind of happens like it's in the fluidity of a game. Same thing when playing football sometimes when choosing a press release. You come off the line, you see a DB start to backpedal. He starts to kind of get into this like motor technique. Okay, fine. I got some info on him. I see that he's inside shade. I got to run this slant, but he backs off, so I'm going to close the distance and throw a crossover. That is textbook as it gets when you have a head-up press DB. Close the space with him if he starts to bail, get some info, and then react. Because, you know what I mean? This crossover move that he throws, he could have done this right off the line. He could have just stood up right here. This DB settles. He doesn't start to motor, and he could just throw the crossover, get him to jump, and run the slant. But it's about gathering info when you have head-up press. Make him uncomfortable, step on his toes, get the information you can, and attack that leverage outside to win back to the inside. Now, let's, again, same thing we were talking about with that slide release. Look at the mechanics of the cut. When he throws to the outside, where are his hips and shoulders? Hips and shoulders are facing here. One of the common mistakes that wide receivers will make when they throw this type of cut is that their hips and shoulders will go, but also their foot will go. Now, obviously, this is something that he's not thinking about when it comes to the mechanics of this cut. But it's good to see this to know how to make this cut when you're training, when you're doing drill work by yourself. When your hips and shoulders commit to a break, if you can keep your toe pointed forward and have that like 45-degree shin angle right here, you can sell the route, but also drive off the cut and push. And that push right there gives you that explosion and gives you that speed to where if this DB were to try to recover, he wouldn't be able to. You got separation, but you're keeping separation because you exploded out of it. It's the little details like this that really make him stand out, especially being in high school, especially being so young, and he's got so much more time to develop as well. So now, like I said, what a lot of guys will do is they'll sell, but this toe will be pointed towards the sideline. And yeah, that DB might jump, but you can't push out of there with an open toe like that. You're going to end up popping up, you're going to take extra steps, and that DB will recover. So this is a textbook cut and a textbook job, attacking that head-up press coverage, closing the space, and giving that tempo with that foot fire release. Great route there by Brandon Innis. So now, last route that I think a lot of people can learn from is that now, obviously, like we watch a lot of professionals run routes. You know, you watch the Devontae Adams, Jerry Jeudy's, Calvin Ridley's, guys who are very, very good at the top of the route making cuts. So when you see a high school receiver run around, everybody's quick to be like, oh, he took too many steps at the break point. Oh, he drifted off the break. And while that is true, and yes, you want to try to get better, the thing that you have to understand at a young level, if you're a high school or youth wide receiver watching this, is that the main thing that's going to help you get separation is selling fade and breaking on a dime. Yes, we want to be perfect. That is the whole point of even, studying this stuff, the training. But this is a great example of how selling vertical will get you open 100% of the time, especially at a lower level of football like high school or youth ball. So let's play this thing full speed. So he's running a comeback right here, right? There is no indicators. He is able to just drop his hips violently and come back to this ball. Now, everybody would talk about this part right here. They would talk about he snapped down and then he popped up. So he drifted a little bit off the break. And yes, he did. And yes, he could stay lower. And we're going to talk about that. But the violent hip drop and him being able to self-fade is what will get you open, fellas. It's what gets this DB to open up his hips and commit. So when he's coming off this route, he does such a good job of really selling fade. He does such a good job of keeping a good pad level, running in full stride, running in full speed. All three of these things right here looks 100% of the time like a fade. This DB has no choice but to open up and run. Because on any DB, I don't care what coverage it is besides cover 2, he does not want to get beat deep. If it's man, he doesn't want to get beat deep. If it's cover 3, cover 4, he does not want to get beat deep. So if my mindset can be, I'm going to open up the stride, I'm not going to raise up my pad level, I'm not going to have a damn thing change. From 5 yards into this route to 15 yards into this route, I should be able to take a picture of your pad level and your stride, and it should be the exact same. Because that is what will get a DB to commit. Now, what separates a great receiver from just a good receiver is this right here, how he gets into this break, and you see the violence of his hip drop. He is snapping down right in stride. That snap down is how we put the brakes on when running full speed. So many wide receivers can do the first part. They can self-fade. They can run. But what makes them an average route runner is that when they get to this break point, they start beating the drum. They chop their feet, chop their hand. They take as many steps as possible to try to change direction. That is just flat out slow. I'm going to be real with you. When you guys drop into a break and you start to chatter your feet, chatter your hands, you're just giving the DB time to react. But snapping down is how you break on a dime when you're selling vertical. When you're running as hard as you can, how you put the brakes on is you have to have a violent snap of your hips. How quick can you drop your chin to your knee? And when you drop your chin to your knee like this, getting to that explosive position, that will help you turn the corner tight when running full speed. It is very hard to change direction running full speed, you guys. But how we do that is that violent drop of your hips. Now, you see how at the break point, like everybody said, he got a little bit stuck right here, right? He kind of drifted upfield, and that is because he popped up. Now, a lot of wide receivers make this mistake, and he still is a high school wide receiver. So there are things that he needs to clean up about his game, obviously. But when he drops into this thing, you see how he snaps, he gets low, but then he pops his head up. What I tell my receivers is I want you to pretend like there's like a tiny door, and you got to drop under the door, but stay under the door until we get out of the break. Now, that's why a lot of wide receivers, you see them get those like PVC pipes and make like kind of like almost like a doorway, if you will, and guys have to drop under that. But fellas, we can't drop low then pop up. That's just going to slow us down at the break point. I have to drop low. I have to stay low because that low explosive position will drive us and accelerate us back to that ball so I can make a play. Now, you might say, oh, well, he doesn't have to drive out of the ball. He's right on the sideline. He's right on the sideline because, fellas, off the line, what he did is he just took off and ran versus an inside shade DB. If he would have threatened the DB a little bit more inside, got him to move, he would have had more space for that QB to throw him open, and it would have been an easier time for the quarterback at least. But again, like I said, still a high school wide receiver, still some things we could clean up. The whole point of this video, you guys, is to show you that there are aspects that these guys have to improve on as well, but there's a reason why they're the level they are at, because they're very, very good at certain things, and that is stuff that you should try to take and try to apply to your own game. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by INNIS, pushing vertical, selling fade, getting the DB to open up his hips, and getting out of that break, dropping those hips on a dime. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, if you'd like to come out and get some work in with us this offseason, we are traveling out to Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and then Los Angeles, California. So don't hesitate. Check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. I'll see you guys next time.